What does it mean to leave a legacy that outlasts your lifetime? It's a question that has echoed through the ages, and few have answered it as profoundly as Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who also became one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers. His writings, penned nearly 2,000 years ago, continue to guide us today in understanding how to live a life of purpose and leave a mark that endures. In this video, we'll explore 22 timeless lessons from Marcus Aurelius that can help you craft a meaningful legacy, not just for yourself, but for the world around you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." This simple yet powerful idea captures the essence of Stoicism: action over words, purpose over pretense. His teachings weren't just about personal growth, they were about creating a life that mattered, one that would ripple out and influence others long after he was gone. And here's the thing: Stoicism isn't just a philosophy of the past. Its principles are as relevant today as they were in ancient Rome, offering us a roadmap for navigating the chaos of modern life and shaping a legacy that truly lasts. So let's dive into these lessons and discover how you can apply them to build a life of meaning, impact, and enduring significance. The foundation of a meaningful legacy begins with knowing yourself. Marcus Aurelius believed that true understanding starts from within, and his personal journal, Meditations, is filled with reflections on self-awareness. He wrote, "Look within, within is the fountain of good." For Marcus, introspection wasn't just a philosophical exercise, it was a daily practice, a way to align his actions with his deepest values. In a world that often pushes us to chase external validation, Stoicism reminds us that the most important journey is the one inward. Self-awareness is like a compass. It helps you navigate life's challenges with clarity and purpose. When you understand your strengths, weaknesses, and core values, you're better equipped to make decisions that reflect who you truly are. Think about it: when your actions align with your values, you're not just living, you're building something meaningful. For instance, Marcus Aurelius didn't just rule as an emperor, he led with integrity, fairness, and a commitment to serving others. These qualities didn't come from blindly following tradition, they came from his deep understanding of himself and his principles. So, how can you apply this today? Start by carving out moments for reflection. Ask yourself, what truly matters to me? What kind of person do I want to become? These aren't easy questions, but they're essential. When you take the time to look within, you begin to see the patterns that shape your life, and you gain the power to change them. What are the core values that guide your decisions? When you can answer that with confidence, you're already on the path to crafting a legacy that resonates far beyond your lifetime. Are you living in harmony with your true nature? It's a question Marcus Aurelius would ask us to consider deeply. For him, living in accordance with nature wasn't about retreating to the wilderness or rejecting modern life. It was about aligning your actions with your innermost self and the world around you. He believed that true fulfillment comes from understanding and embracing the natural order of things, both within and outside of us. As he wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with your whole heart." What does it mean to live in accordance with nature, especially in today's fast-paced, hyper-connected world? For Marcus, it meant recognizing that we are part of something larger, a universe governed by reason and order. It meant accepting what we cannot control while focusing on what we can: our attitudes, our choices, and our responses. This idea might sound abstract, but it's incredibly practical. Think about it: when you resist reality, whether it's a setback at work, a personal disappointment, or even a global crisis, you create unnecessary suffering. But when you align yourself with the natural flow of life, you find peace even in the midst of chaos. Let's bring this into a modern context. imagine someone driven by ambition, constantly chasing success but feeling perpetually unfulfilled. They're achieving goals, yet something feels missing. Why? Because they're out of sync with their true nature. Marcus Aurelius would advise them to pause and ask, am I pursuing this path because it's genuinely meaningful to me, or am I simply following societal expectations? The key is to balance external ambition with inner peace, to strive for growth without losing sight of what truly matters. So, how can you better align your actions with your natural purpose? Start by observing your daily habits and decisions. Are they driven by external pressures, or do they reflect your authentic self? Do you feel a sense of harmony in your life, or is there a constant tug of war between what you want and what you think you should do? These reflections can help you reconnect with your core values and live a life that feels both purposeful and peaceful. Living in accordance with nature isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about making small, intentional choices that bring you closer to your true self and the world around you. When you do this, you not only create a more fulfilling life for yourself, but also leave a legacy that inspires others to do the same. What steps can you take today to start living more authentically? The answer lies within you. Marcus Aurelius faced immense challenges during his reign: wars, political intrigue, and personal loss, yet he remained steadfast and composed. How did he do it? Much of his resilience came from the Stoic practice of cognitive detachment. This isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional weight of things you can't control. As Marcus famously wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. This simple yet profound idea is the cornerstone of Stoic resilience. Cognitive detachment is the ability to observe events without letting them dictate your emotional state. Think of it like this: imagine standing on the shore of a stormy sea. The waves crash and roar, but you remain on solid ground, unaffected by the chaos. That's what cognitive detachment offers: a mental anchor in the midst of life's storms. For Marcus, this meant focusing on his own thoughts and actions rather than being swept away by external circumstances. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine receiving harsh criticism at work or online. It's easy to feel hurt, defensive, or even angry. But cognitive detachment teaches us to pause and ask, is this criticism within my control? Can I change it? If not, why let it disturb my peace? Instead of reacting emotionally, you can choose to respond with clarity and purpose. This doesn't mean ignoring feedback, it means processing it rationally, without letting it shake your sense of self-worth. So, how can you practice cognitive detachment in your own life? Start by identifying the external events that trigger strong emotional reactions. Is it a difficult coworker, a missed opportunity, or something as simple as traffic on your commute? Once you recognize these triggers, remind yourself that you can't control the event itself, but you can control how you respond to it. This shift in perspective can be incredibly liberating. Here's a practical exercise inspired by Marcus Aurelius. At the end of each day, reflect on the moments when you felt most agitated or upset. Ask yourself, was this within my control? If not, how could I have approached it differently? Over time, this practice helps you build emotional resilience and a deeper sense of inner peace. What external events do you need to detach from to find peace? It's a question worth exploring. By mastering cognitive detachment, you not only protect your mental well-being, but also create space for more meaningful and intentional living. And isn't that the kind of life and legacy we all aspire to build? The present is all we truly control. This might seem obvious, but how often do we find ourselves dwelling on the past or worrying about the future? For Marcus Aurelius, the ability to focus on the present moment wasn't just a philosophical idea, it was a lifeline. In Meditations, he wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." At first glance, this might sound restrictive, but it's actually liberating. It's an invitation to let go of what's already happened and what's yet to come, and to fully engage with the here and now. Why is the present so important? Because it's the only moment where we can act, think, and feel. The past is unchangeable and the future is uncertain. But the present, that's where your power lies. Marcus understood this deeply. As an emperor, he faced constant pressure decisions that could affect millions, threats of war, and the weight of leadership. Yet he found strength in grounding himself in the present. By focusing on what he could do right now, he avoided being overwhelmed by what might happen tomorrow. Let's bring this into a modern context. Think about how much of our anxiety comes from ruminating over past mistakes or fearing future outcomes. What if, instead of replaying that awkward conversation from last week or stressing over a presentation next month, you focused on what's in front of you? The act of simply being present can reduce anxiety and bring a sense of calm. It's not about ignoring the past or future entirely. It's about not letting them dominate your mind. So how can you cultivate presence in your daily life? Start small. When you're eating a meal, truly taste it. When you're talking to someone, really listen. These moments of mindfulness might seem insignificant, but they add up. Over time, they help you build a habit of staying grounded in the present. Marcus Aurelius didn't just write about this, he practiced it daily. Whether he was making decisions for the empire or reflecting on his own thoughts, he made a conscious effort to stay rooted in the now. Here's a practical exercise inspired by his teachings. Set aside a few minutes each day to sit quietly and focus on your breath. Notice the sensation of air entering and leaving your body. If your mind starts to wander, gently bring it back to the present. This simple practice can help you train your mind to stay focused and calm, even amidst life's chaos. What's one thing you can do today to be more present? Whether it's savoring your morning coffee or truly listening to a loved one, these small acts of mindfulness can have a profound impact. By embracing the present, you not only reduce stress but also create a life that's richer, more intentional, and deeply fulfilling. And isn't that the kind of legacy worth striving for? How do you respond to the inevitability of change? It's a question that strikes at the heart of what it means to be human. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, often reflected on the fleeting nature of life, urging us to accept impermanence not as a burden but as a fundamental truth. He wrote, "Everything is ephemeral, both that which remembers and that which is remembered." In other words, nothing lasts forever, not our joys, not our sorrows, not even our memories. For Marcus, this wasn't a cause for despair. It was an invitation to live more fully in the present, to appreciate what we have while we have it. Stoicism teaches us that impermanence is woven into the fabric of existence. Seasons change, relationships evolve, and even the strongest empires eventually fade. Marcus Aurelius saw this not as something to resist, but as a natural part of life's rhythm. By embracing this truth, we can find a deeper sense of peace. Think about it: when we cling too tightly to what we have, whether it's a job, a relationship, or even our own youth, we set ourselves up for suffering. But when we accept that change is inevitable, we free ourselves from the fear of loss. Consider this example. Imagine losing something or someone you deeply care about. It could be a loved one, a cherished opportunity, or even a phase of life you've outgrown. In that moment, it's natural to feel grief or frustration. But Marcus Aurelius would remind us that this loss is not a deviation from the norm, it is the norm. By recognizing the transient nature of all things, we can approach such moments with greater grace and resilience. So, how can we apply this principle in our own lives? Start by reflecting on the changes you've experienced, both the ones you welcomed and the ones you resisted. What did those moments teach you? Perhaps they showed you your own strength, or maybe they revealed what truly matters to you. Marcus Aurelius believed that by accepting impermanence, we not only reduce our suffering but also deepen our appreciation for the present. Here's a practical exercise inspired by his teachings. Take a moment to think about a change you're currently facing. It could be something as simple as a shift in your daily routine, or as profound as the end of a significant chapter in your life. Ask yourself, how can I approach this change with acceptance rather than resistance? What can I learn from it? By shifting your perspective, you can transform what feels like a loss into an opportunity for growth. What changes in your life can you learn to accept more gracefully? The answer lies in how you choose to see them. When we stop fighting against the flow of life and start embracing its impermanence, we open ourselves to a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment. And that, in itself, is a legacy worth leaving behind. Adversity is the forge of character. It's a truth Marcus Aurelius understood deeply, and one that resonates just as powerfully today. For him, challenges weren't something to fear or avoid. They were opportunities to grow, to strengthen, and to refine who we are. As he famously wrote, "The obstacle is the way." This simple phrase captures the essence of Stoic resilience. Instead of seeing obstacles as barriers, we can choose to see them as paths to greatness. Marcus Aurelius didn't just write about resilience, he lived it. During his reign, he faced constant adversity, wars, political turmoil, personal loss, yet he never allowed these challenges to break him. Instead, he used them as opportunities to practice virtue, to lead with integrity, and to deepen his understanding of himself and the world. For Marcus, every obstacle was a chance to cultivate strength, patience, and wisdom. Let's bring this idea into the modern world. Imagine someone who's just experienced a major professional setback. Perhaps they've been passed over for a promotion, or they've lost a job they loved. In that moment, it's easy to feel defeated, to see the setback as a sign of failure. But Marcus Aurelius would encourage them to shift their perspective. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they might ask, "What can I learn from this? How can I grow stronger because of it?" This shift doesn't erase the difficulty, but it transforms it into something meaningful. Resilience isn't about pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about acknowledging the pain, the frustration, or the disappointment, and then choosing to move forward anyway. It's about recognizing that adversity is a teacher, one that can help us discover strengths we never knew we had. Think about the people you admire. Most chances are, their greatest achievements didn't come from a life of ease, but from their ability to rise above challenges. So, how can you build this kind of resilience in your own life? Start by reframing the way you see obstacles. Instead of viewing them as roadblocks, see them as stepping stones. Ask yourself, what can I gain from this experience? How can I use this challenge to become a better version of myself? These questions don't just help you cope, they help you thrive. Here's a practical exercise inspired by Marcus Aurelius. The next time you face a challenge, take a moment to write down 3 ways it could help you grow. Maybe it's teaching you patience, showing you a new skill, or revealing a hidden strength. By focusing on the potential for growth, you shift your mindset from victim to victor. What challenges have shaped you into who you are today? Reflect on the moments that tested you, the ones that felt insurmountable at the time. How did you overcome them? What did they teach you about yourself? These are the moments that forge character, the ones that leave a lasting mark on your life and the lives of those around you. When you embrace adversity as an opportunity, you don't just survive, you thrive, and that in itself is a legacy worth building. How often do you pause to truly appreciate what you have? In a world that constantly pushes us to want more success, more possessions, more validation, it's easy to lose sight of the abundance already present in our lives. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. For him, gratitude wasn't just a fleeting emotion, it was a daily practice, a way to cultivate contentment and peace. As he wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." These words remind us that gratitude isn't about ignoring life's challenges, it's about finding light even in the midst of darkness. Stoicism teaches us that gratitude is a choice, not a result. It's not something we feel only when everything is going well. It's something we actively cultivate, even in difficult times. Marcus Aurelius believed that by focusing on what we have rather than what we lack, we shift our perspective from scarcity to abundance. This shift doesn't just make us happier, it makes us stronger, more resilient, and more grounded in the present moment. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine someone who's feeling overwhelmed by the pressures of work, relationships, or even societal expectations. They might feel like they're constantly chasing something just out of reach. But what if, instead of focusing on what they don't have, they took a moment to reflect on what they do have? A stable job, a supportive friend, or even the simple joy of a warm cup of coffee in the morning. These small moments of gratitude can act as anchors, helping us stay centered in the midst of life's chaos. So, how can you incorporate this practice into your own life? One powerful tool is keeping a gratitude journal. Each day, take a few minutes to write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand or life-changing sometimes. It's the smallest things that matter most. A kind word from a stranger, a beautiful sunset, or even the feeling of your favorite song playing on the radio. Over time, this practice trains your mind to notice and appreciate the good, even when it feels overshadowed by the bad. Here's a practical exercise inspired by Marcus Aurelius. As you go about your day, try to notice moments of beauty or kindness that might otherwise go unnoticed. Maybe it's the way sunlight filters through the trees or the smile of a loved one when you walk into the room. By actively seeking out these moments, you begin to rewire your brain to focus on what's good rather than what's missing. What are 3 things you're grateful for today? Take a moment to reflect. It could be something as simple as a good night's sleep or as profound as the love of your family. When you make gratitude a habit, you don't just improve your own life, you create a ripple effect that touches everyone around you. And isn't that the kind of legacy we all want to leave behind? Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in the ancient world, ruled an empire that spanned continents, yet he never let that power define him. Despite his position as emperor, he lived with remarkable humility, often reminding himself that he was no different from those he ruled. In Meditations, he wrote, "It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it." This wasn't just a philosophical musing, it was a reflection of his commitment to humility. He understood that true greatness isn't about asserting dominance, it's about listening, learning, and leading with an open mind. Humility is often misunderstood. It's not about diminishing yourself or downplaying your worth. Instead, it's about recognizing that no matter how much you achieve, there's always more to learn. Marcus Aurelius believed that humility was essential for building meaningful connections and leaving a legacy that endures. When you approach others with humility, you create space for genuine understanding and collaboration. People are drawn to those who lead with grace and openness, not arrogance or entitlement. Think about the leaders you admire. Most chances are they embody this quality. Take modern examples like Nelson Mandela or Jacinda Ardern. Despite their immense influence, they led with humility, prioritizing empathy and collaboration over ego. Their legacies aren't just about their accomplishments, they're about the way they made others feel seen, valued, and inspired. That's the power of humility. It's not just a personal virtue, it's a bridge that connects you to others in a way that leaves a lasting impact. So, how can humility enhance your own relationships and impact? Start by practicing active listening. When someone speaks, truly focus on their words without planning your response. This simple act shows respect and fosters deeper connections. Next, embrace the idea that you don't have all the answers. Whether it's in a team meeting or a personal conversation, being open to different perspectives can lead to richer, more meaningful outcomes. Marcus Aurelius also reminds us that humility is closely tied to self-awareness. When you understand your own limitations, you're better equipped to grow and adapt. It's not about being perfect, it's about being willing to learn from your mistakes and evolve. This mindset not only strengthens your character, but also inspires those around you to do the same. Here's a practical exercise. The next time you're in a position of leadership, whether it's at work, in your community, or even at home, pause and ask yourself, am I leading with humility? Am I creating space for others to contribute and grow? These questions can help you stay grounded and focused on what truly matters. What does humility look like in your own life? How can it deepen your relationships and amplify your impact? The answers may surprise you. When you lead with humility, you don't just build a legacy, you create a ripple effect of kindness, understanding, and mutual respect that can endure for generations. And isn't that the kind of mark we all want to leave on the world? Your power lies in your response, not the event itself. This is the heart of the Stoic principle known as the Dichotomy of Control, a concept that Marcus Aurelius championed throughout his life. He believed that true peace and strength come from understanding the difference between what we can and cannot control. As he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." In other words, while life may throw unexpected challenges your way, your reaction to those challenges is entirely within your control. At first glance, this idea might seem simple, but its implications are profound. Imagine facing a situation where everything feels chaotic, perhaps a sudden job loss, a health scare, or even a global crisis. In moments like these, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, as if the world is spinning out of your grasp. But Marcus Aurelius would remind us that while we can't always control the events themselves, we can control how we respond to them. This shift in perspective doesn't just reduce stress, it empowers us to take meaningful action even in the face of uncertainty. Let's bring this into a practical context. Think about stress, something we all experience. Often, stress arises from focusing on things we can't change, like a traffic jam or a delayed flight. But what if, instead of fixating on the delay, you used that time to read a book, listen to a podcast, or simply enjoy a moment of quiet? By shifting your focus to what you can control, your own actions and mindset, you transform a frustrating situation into an opportunity for growth or relaxation. Marcus Aurelius didn't just teach this principle, he lived it. As an emperor, he faced countless challenges that were beyond his control: wars, political intrigue, even personal loss. Yet he remained steadfast by focusing on what he could influence, his own thoughts, decisions, and actions. This mindset allowed him to lead with clarity and purpose, even in the most turbulent times. So, how can you apply this principle in your own life? Start by identifying the areas where you're expending energy on things you can't change. Are you worrying about someone else's opinion or stressing over a situation that's already passed? Once you recognize these patterns, redirect your focus to what's within your control. For example, if you're feeling overwhelmed at work, instead of fixating on the workload, break it down into manageable steps. Focus on completing one task at a time and let go of the rest. Here's a practical exercise inspired by Marcus Aurelius. At the end of each day, reflect on the moments when you felt most stressed or anxious. Ask yourself, was this within my control? If not, how could I have approached it differently? Over time, this practice helps you build resilience and a deeper sense of inner peace. What aspects of your life are within your control? Take a moment to consider this question. By focusing on what you can influence, your thoughts, actions, and responses, you reclaim your power and create a life that's not only more manageable but also more meaningful. And isn't that the kind of legacy worth striving for? This principle doesn't just help you navigate challenges, it shapes the way you live, lead, and leave your mark on the world. Are your actions aligned with your values? It's a question Marcus Aurelius would ask us to confront daily, as he believed that integrity is the cornerstone of a meaningful life. In Meditations, he wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." This isn't just a call to action, it's a reminder that integrity isn't about lofty ideals or endless debate. It's about how we live, moment by moment, in alignment with our deepest principles. For Marcus, integrity wasn't optional. It was the essence of Stoic virtue, the foundation upon which all other qualities are built. Integrity is more than just honesty, it's consistency. It's about ensuring that your actions reflect your beliefs even when no one is watching. Marcus Aurelius, as an emperor, faced immense pressure to compromise his values for political gain or personal comfort. Yet he consistently chose to lead with integrity, even when it was difficult. He understood that true strength lies not in power or wealth, but in the ability to stay true to oneself. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine a business leader faced with a tough decision: to cut corners for short-term profit or to uphold ethical standards, even if it means slower growth. Integrity isn't just about doing what's right when it's easy, it's about doing what's right when it's hard. Companies that prioritize integrity, like Patagonia or Ben & Jerry's, build trust and loyalty that lasts far beyond quarterly earnings. Their legacies aren't just about profit, they're about purpose. So how can you strengthen your commitment to integrity? Start by reflecting on your core values. What do you stand for? What principles guide your decisions? Once you're clear on these, evaluate whether your daily actions align with them. For example, if kindness is a core value, are you practicing it consistently, even in small interactions? If fairness matters to you, are you ensuring that your decisions are equitable, even when it's inconvenient? Here's a practical exercise inspired by Marcus Aurelius. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to review your actions. Ask yourself, did I live in alignment with my values today? If not, what can I do differently tomorrow? This simple practice helps you stay accountable and intentional, ensuring that your life reflects the person you aspire to be. What small steps can you take today to live with greater integrity? Whether it's speaking up for what's right, honoring your commitments, or simply being honest in a difficult conversation, these choices add up. Over time, they shape not only your character but also the legacy you leave behind. And isn't that the kind of life and impact we all want to create? Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. In a world that often equates success with accumulation, more possessions, more commitments, more noise, Marcus Aurelius offers a refreshing counterpoint. He believed that true fulfillment doesn't come from adding more to our lives, but from stripping away the unnecessary. As he wrote, very little is needed to make a happy life. For Marcus, simplicity wasn't just a lifestyle choice, it was a path to clarity, peace, and purpose. Stoicism teaches us that life's greatest treasures often lie in the uncomplicated. A simple, focused life allows us to direct our energy toward what truly matters, rather than being pulled in countless directions by distractions. Imagine standing in a cluttered room, surrounded by objects you no longer need or use. The chaos can feel overwhelming, making it hard to think clearly or act decisively. Now picture that same space cleared of the excess, leaving only what serves a purpose or brings joy. That's the power of simplicity. It creates room for what's essential. Let's bring this into a modern context. Think about your daily routine. How many of your actions are driven by habit, obligation, or societal pressure? How many of them truly align with your values and goals? Marcus Aurelius would encourage us to question these patterns, to identify where we've allowed complexity to creep in and obscure our priorities. Simplifying isn't about deprivation. It's about making intentional choices that bring us closer to our true selves. One practical way to embrace simplicity is by decluttering your environment. Start with your physical space, your home, your workspace, even your digital devices. Remove the items that no longer serve you, whether it's old clothes, unused gadgets, or apps that drain your time. This act of letting go isn't just about creating a cleaner space, it's about creating mental clarity. When you remove the physical clutter, you often find that your thoughts become clearer, your decisions sharper, and your focus more precise. But simplicity goes beyond the physical. It's also about decluttering your schedule and your mind. How often do you say yes to things out of obligation, only to feel stretched thin and unfulfilled? Marcus Aurelius would remind us that every yes to something unimportant is a no to what truly matters. By simplifying your commitments, you free up time and energy for the people and activities that bring you joy and meaning. Here's a practical exercise inspired by Marcus Aurelius. Take a moment to reflect on your life, your surroundings, your schedule, your thoughts. Ask yourself, what can I simplify to create more space for what truly matters? Maybe it's letting go of a toxic relationship, cutting back on social media, or setting boundaries at work. Whatever it is, start small. Simplify one thing today and notice how it shifts your perspective. Simplicity isn't a one-time act, it's a practice. It's about continually evaluating what adds value to your life and what detracts from it. When you embrace simplicity, you create a life that's not only easier to navigate but also richer in meaning. And isn't that the kind of legacy worth striving for? A life that's uncluttered, intentional, and deeply aligned with your values. What's one thing you can simplify today to take a step closer to that vision? How are you growing today? It's a question worth asking, not just as a passing thought, but as a daily practice. Marcus Aurelius, despite being one of the most powerful men of his time, never stopped seeking knowledge. He believed that growth wasn't a destination but a lifelong journey. As he wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This vivid metaphor reminds us that what we feed our minds shapes who we become. For Marcus, learning wasn't just about acquiring facts, it was about cultivating wisdom, refining character, and deepening understanding. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to fall into the trap of complacency. We might feel like we've learned enough or that we're too busy to invest in personal growth, but Marcus Aurelius would challenge us to think differently. He saw learning as essential to living a meaningful life, a way to stay curious, adaptable, and engaged with the world. Whether it was through reading, reflecting, or engaging in thoughtful dialogue, he made self-improvement a priority, even as an emperor with countless responsibilities. Consider the modern equivalent, dedicating time to reading, taking online courses, or learning a new skill. These aren't just hobbies, they're acts of self-investment. Think about someone who decides to learn a new language or take up a craft like woodworking. At first, it might feel daunting, but over time, they not only gain a new skill but also develop patience, creativity, and resilience. Learning, in this sense, isn't just about the outcome, it's about the transformation that happens along the way. So, what new knowledge or skill can you pursue to enrich your life? It doesn't have to be grand or time-consuming. Maybe it's reading a book on a topic you've always been curious about, or dedicating 15 minutes a day to practicing mindfulness. The key is to approach learning with intention, to see it as a way to expand your horizons and deepen your connection to the world around you. Here's a practical exercise inspired by Marcus Aurelius. Set a small, achievable learning goal for yourself this week. It could be as simple as exploring a new podcast, watching a documentary, or trying a new recipe. Afterward, reflect on what you've gained, not just in terms of knowledge, but in how it made you feel. Did it spark curiosity? Did it challenge your assumptions? These moments of growth, no matter how small, add up over time, shaping who you are and the legacy you leave behind. Continuous learning isn't just about staying relevant, it's about staying alive in the deepest sense of the word. It's about nurturing a mind that's open, adaptable, and ever-evolving. In a world that's constantly changing, the ability to grow and adapt is one of the most powerful gifts you can give yourself. And when you commit to lifelong learning, you don't just enrich your own life, you inspire others to do the same. What will you choose to learn next? The possibilities are endless, and the journey is yours to shape. Compassion is the thread that weaves humanity together, and Marcus Aurelius, despite his immense power, never lost sight of this truth. As a Roman emperor, he ruled over millions, yet he consistently demonstrated empathy and concern for the well-being of others. In Meditations, he wrote, "What injures the hive injures the bee." This vivid metaphor captures the Stoic belief in interconnectedness. Our actions, whether kind or harmful, ripple out and affect the collective. For Marcus, compassion wasn't just a moral ideal. It was a practical necessity for creating a harmonious and enduring legacy. Stoicism often emphasizes self-mastery and resilience, but it's important to remember that these qualities aren't about isolating oneself from others. Instead, they're about becoming the kind of person who can uplift and support those around you. Marcus Aurelius understood that true strength isn't demonstrated through dominance or indifference. It's shown through acts of kindness and understanding. His reign was marked by policies that sought to alleviate suffering, from providing aid to the poor to ensuring fair treatment for all citizens. These actions weren't just political strategies, they were reflections of his deep belief in the value of compassion. Let's bring this into the modern world. Imagine a workplace where colleagues compete fiercely, often at the expense of collaboration and trust. Over time, this environment breeds resentment and burnout. But what if, instead of focusing solely on individual success, each person took a moment to consider the struggles and perspectives of others? A simple act of empathy, like listening to a coworker's concerns or offering support during a challenging project, can transform the entire dynamic. Compassion doesn't just make us better individuals, it creates stronger, more resilient communities. So how can you practice compassion in your own life? Start by being present in your interactions. When someone speaks, truly listen not just to their words, but to the emotions behind them. This small act of attention can make a world of difference. Next, try to see situations from others' perspectives. When you encounter someone who's difficult or frustrating, ask yourself, what might they be going through? How can I respond with understanding rather than judgment? These shifts in mindset don't just benefit others, they also cultivate inner peace and fulfillment. Here's a practical exercise inspired by Marcus Aurelius. At the end of each day, reflect on how you showed compassion. Did you offer a kind word to a stranger? Did you support a friend in need? Even the smallest acts of empathy can have a profound impact. Over time, this practice helps you become more attuned to the needs of others and more intentional in your actions. How can you show more compassion to those around you? It's a question worth exploring, not just for the sake of others, but for your own growth as well. When you lead with empathy, you don't just leave a legacy of kindness, you inspire others to do the same. And in a world that often feels divided, isn't that the kind of impact we all want to create? Patience is the companion of wisdom. It's a truth Marcus Aurelius held close, especially as he navigated the turbulent waters of leadership and personal struggle. He understood that life rarely unfolds according to our timelines, and that rushing against its current often leads to frustration rather than progress. In Meditations, he wrote, "Time is a river, a violent current of events. This vivid metaphor reminds us that life moves at its own pace, and our task is not to fight it but to flow with it, trusting that the timing of events is often beyond our control. For Marcus, patience wasn't about passive waiting, it was about active endurance. It's the ability to remain calm and composed in the face of delay, disappointment, or difficulty. Think about it, when we lack patience, we often make impulsive decisions driven by frustration or fear. But when we cultivate patience, we create space for clarity and wisdom to emerge. This doesn't mean we stop striving or working toward our goals. It means we approach them with a mindset of trust and resilience, knowing that growth often happens in its own time. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you're working toward a long-term goal. Maybe it's building a business, advancing in your career, or mastering a new skill. Progress can feel slow, even invisible at times. You might feel tempted to give up or take shortcuts, but Marcus Aurelius would remind you that true achievement often requires time and perseverance. Consider the story of an entrepreneur whose first venture failed. Instead of giving up, they used the experience as a learning opportunity, patiently refining their approach until they found success. Their patience didn't just help them achieve their goal, it transformed their perspective, teaching them resilience and humility along the way. So, how can patience help you achieve your long-term goals? Start by reframing how you view delays and setbacks. Instead of seeing them as obstacles, see them as part of the process. Every step, even the slow ones, brings you closer to where you want to be. Next, practice grounding yourself in the present. When you're tempted to rush or feel frustrated, take a deep breath and remind yourself that growth takes time. Marcus Aurelius believed that by embracing patience, we not only improve our chances of success, but also find peace in the journey itself. Here's a practical exercise inspired by his teachings. Identify one area of your life where you're feeling impatient, whether it's a personal goal, a relationship, or even a daily routine. Instead of focusing on the end result, break it down into smaller, manageable steps. Celebrate each small victory along the way and remind yourself that every step forward, no matter how small, is progress. Over time, this practice helps you build patience as a habit rather than a fleeting emotion. Patience isn't just a virtue, it's a skill, one that can transform how you approach challenges and opportunities alike. When you learn to flow with life's current rather than fighting against it, you open yourself to a deeper sense of fulfillment and purpose. How can patience shape your journey toward the legacy you want to leave behind? The answer lies in how you choose to embrace the present, even when the future feels uncertain. What habits are quietly shaping your future? It's a question worth asking because the small choices we make each day often define the lives we lead. Marcus Aurelius believed that self-discipline wasn't just a virtue, it was the bedrock of a meaningful life. As he wrote, "You have to assemble your life yourself, action by action." These words remind us that discipline isn't about grand gestures or dramatic overhauls. It's about the consistent, intentional choices we make day in and day out. For Marcus, self-discipline was a form of freedom. It wasn't about restricting himself, but about aligning his actions with his values and goals. Think about it. When we lack discipline, we often feel scattered, overwhelmed, or stuck. But when we cultivate it, we gain clarity and control. Self-discipline allows us to focus on what truly matters, cutting through the noise of distractions and impulses. It's what turns aspirations into achievements, one small step at a time. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine someone who wants to write a book. The idea might feel daunting at first, but the key isn't to write the entire manuscript in one sitting, it's to commit to writing a little each day. Over time, those daily efforts add up, transforming a distant dream into a tangible reality. Marcus Aurelius would encourage us to approach our goals in the same way. not with impatience or grandiosity, but with steady, disciplined effort. So, how can you build self-discipline in your own life? Start with a daily routine. Establishing consistent habits, whether it's waking up early, exercising, or setting aside time for reflection, creates a structure that supports your growth. These routines aren't just about productivity, they're about creating a rhythm that aligns with your values. For example, Marcus himself began each day with quiet reflection, grounding himself in his principles before facing the demands of ruling an empire. Here's a practical exercise inspired by his teachings. Identify one habit you'd like to cultivate, something small but meaningful. Maybe it's reading for 15 minutes a day, meditating every morning, or even just drinking more water. Commit to this habit for a week and notice how it impacts your mood, focus, and sense of accomplishment. Over time, these small acts of discipline compound, helping you build a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. What habits can you cultivate to shape a better future? The answer lies in the choices you make today. When you approach life with self-discipline, you don't just achieve your goals, you create a foundation for lasting fulfillment and impact. And isn't that the kind of legacy worth striving for? Each disciplined action is a brick in the life you're building, one that stands strong against the tides of distraction and doubt. So, what will your next brick be? Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the triumph over it. These words capture a truth that Marcus Aurelius lived by, a truth that remains as vital today as it was in ancient Rome. For Marcus, courage wasn't about being fearless, it was about acting in spite of fear. As he wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." This bold statement reminds us that the real tragedy isn't in facing challenges, it's in allowing fear to paralyze us, to keep us from pursuing what truly matters. Stoicism teaches us that courage is a choice, a deliberate decision to move forward even when the path ahead seems uncertain. Marcus Aurelius, as both a philosopher and an emperor, understood this deeply. He led armies into battle, made difficult decisions for the good of his people, and faced personal struggles with unwavering resolve. Yet he never saw courage as a trait reserved for the extraordinary. Instead, he believed it was something we all possess, waiting to be awakened when needed most. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine someone standing up for their beliefs in the face of opposition, whether it's speaking out against injustice, advocating for a cause they care about, or even setting boundaries in a toxic relationship. These acts of courage don't require grand gestures. They often come in the form of small, quiet decisions that reflect our deepest values. Think about the whistleblower who risks their career to expose corruption, or the teenager who stands up to bullying despite the fear of retaliation. These moments of bravery, though often unseen, ripple out and inspire others to do the same. So how can you cultivate courage in your own life? Start by identifying what scares you the most. Is it the fear of failure, rejection, or the unknown? Once you name your fears, you can begin to confront them. Marcus Aurelius would encourage us to see fear not as a barrier, but as an invitation and opportunity to grow stronger and more resilient. Every time you choose to act despite your fear, you prove to yourself that courage isn't something you're born with, it's something you build one brave step at a time. Here's a practical exercise inspired by Marcus Aurelius. Think about a fear that's been holding you back. Maybe it's starting a new project, having a difficult conversation, or pursuing a dream that feels out of reach. Now ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen, and if it did, how would I handle it? Often, when we confront our fears head-on, we realize they're not as insurmountable as they seem. What fears are keeping you from living fully? Take a moment to reflect. Whether it's the fear of failure, judgment, or the unknown, remember that courage isn't about erasing fear, it's about refusing to let fear dictate your choices. When you act with bravery, even in small ways, you not only transform your own life but also inspire those around you. And isn't that the kind of legacy we all want to leave behind? A life lived not in the shadow of fear but in the light of courage. How do you maintain balance in the face of life's ups and downs? It's a question that strikes at the heart of what it means to live with equanimity, a core Stoic principle that Marcus Aurelius championed throughout his life. For him, true strength wasn't about controlling the world around us. It was about mastering our inner world, no matter what storms raged outside. As he wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, our inner state, our thoughts, emotions, and reactions shapes our experience of life far more than the events themselves. Equanimity is the ability to remain steady and composed, even when circumstances are anything but. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine when it's not. Instead, it's about cultivating a deep sense of inner peace that allows you to navigate challenges with clarity and grace. Marcus Aurelius believed that this kind of balance wasn't just a lofty ideal, it was a practice, something we could develop through consistent effort and reflection. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you're in the middle of a heated argument with a colleague or loved one. Emotions are running high, and it feels like the situation is spiraling out of control. In moments like these, it's easy to react impulsively, saying or doing things we might regret later. But what if, instead of letting the tension dictate your response, you paused and took a deep breath? By creating that small space between stimulus and response, you give yourself the opportunity to choose how you want to act rather than being swept away by emotion. Marcus Aurelius faced countless situations that tested his equanimity: wars, political intrigue, personal loss, yet he remained steadfast by focusing on what he could control, his own mind. He believed that by maintaining inner calm, we not only protect ourselves from unnecessary suffering, but also create the clarity needed to make wise decisions. So, how can you cultivate equanimity in your own life? Start by paying attention to your thoughts and emotions. When you feel yourself becoming overwhelmed, ask, "Is this within my control?" If not, how can I shift my perspective? This simple act of reflection can help you regain your balance and respond with intention rather than react with emotion. Here's a practical exercise inspired by Marcus Aurelius. The next time you find yourself in a stressful situation, take a moment to observe your thoughts without judgment. Notice how they influence your emotions and actions. Then, gently redirect your focus to something within your control, your breath, your posture, or even a single grounding thought. Over time, this practice helps you build resilience and a deeper sense of inner peace. What steps can you take today to cultivate equanimity? Whether it's pausing before reacting, practicing mindfulness, or simply reminding yourself that you can't control everything, these small choices add up. When you approach life with equanimity, you not only find greater peace within yourself, but also create a ripple effect that touches everyone around you. And isn't that the kind of legacy worth striving for? A life lived with balance, clarity, and unwavering inner strength. A meaningful legacy begins with a clear purpose. It's the foundation upon which everything else is built, the compass that guides your actions, decisions, and ultimately, the mark you leave on the world. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. For him, purpose wasn't just a lofty ideal. It was the driving force behind a life well lived. As he wrote, "Let your actions be directed to a social end." These words remind us that purpose isn't about personal ambition alone. It's about contributing to something greater than ourselves. Marcus Aurelius believed that living with intention was essential to creating a life of meaning. Every decision, every action should align with a higher goal, one that serves not just the individual, but the community as a whole. This might sound idealistic, but it's incredibly practical. Think about it. When you have a clear sense of purpose, you're no longer drifting aimlessly. You're moving forward with direction and conviction, even when the path ahead is uncertain. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine someone choosing a career path. They could pursue a job solely for its salary or prestige, but if it doesn't align with their deeper values, they'll likely feel unfulfilled. On the other hand, someone who chooses a career that reflects their purpose, whether it's teaching, healing, or creating, finds a sense of fulfillment that goes beyond external rewards. Marcus Aurelius would encourage us to ask, does this path serve not just me, but others as well? This question shifts the focus from self-centered ambition to meaningful contribution. So, how can you identify and live by your purpose? Start by reflecting on what truly matters to you. What are the values that guide your decisions? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world? These questions aren't always easy to answer, but they're essential for creating a life of intention and impact. Marcus Aurelius' own purpose was deeply tied to his role as a leader. He saw his duty not as a burden, but as an opportunity to serve and protect his people. Here's a practical exercise inspired by his teachings. Take a moment to write down your core values and how they align with your current actions. Are there areas where you could make adjustments to live more purposefully? For example, if kindness is a core value, how can you incorporate more acts of kindness into your daily life? If fairness matters to you, how can you advocate for justice in your community? What is your guiding purpose in life? It's a question worth exploring, not just for the sake of leaving a legacy, but for the fulfillment and clarity it brings to your everyday existence. When you live with intention, every action becomes a step towards something greater. A life that's not only meaningful to you, but also impactful to those around you. And isn't that the kind of life we all aspire to build? How does holding onto resentment shape the legacy you leave behind? It's a question that strikes at the heart of what it means to live with grace and purpose. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most profound thinkers, believed that forgiveness wasn't just a moral virtue, it was a practical necessity for inner peace and a meaningful life. He wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." These words remind us that forgiveness isn't about excusing harmful behavior, it's about freeing ourselves from the weight of anger and bitterness. Resentment, when left unchecked, can become a heavy burden. It clouds our judgment, drains our energy, and distracts us from what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. As an emperor, he faced betrayal, conflict, and personal slights, yet he chose to rise above them. He saw forgiveness not as a sign of weakness, but as an act of strength, an intentional choice to reclaim your peace and focus on what you can control. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine someone holding a grudge against a former friend or colleague. They replay the hurtful words or actions in their mind, letting the resentment simmer and grow. Over time, this bitterness begins to color their interactions, making it harder to trust or connect with others. Marcus Aurelius would encourage them to ask, is this grudge serving me? Is it helping me grow, or is it holding me back? By choosing to forgive, they're not condoning the wrong, they're choosing to let go of what no longer serves them. Forgiveness isn't always easy, especially when the hurt runs deep, but it's a practice, something we can cultivate over time. Start by reflecting on the grievances you're holding onto. Are they tied to a past mistake, a broken promise, or a moment of betrayal? Now, ask yourself, what would it feel like to release this? How would my life change if I no longer carried this weight? These questions can help you begin the process of letting go, not for the sake of others, but for your own peace of mind. Here's a practical exercise inspired by Marcus Aurelius. Write a letter to someone who has hurt you, expressing your feelings honestly and fully. You don't have to send it, this is for you. Once you've poured out your thoughts, take a moment to reflect on what forgiveness might look like. It doesn't mean forgetting or reconciling. It simply means choosing to move forward without carrying the weight of resentment. What grievances can you release to free yourself? It's a question that invites deep reflection. Forgiveness isn't about erasing the past, it's about creating space for a brighter future. When you choose to let go of grudges, you're not just healing yourself, you're setting an example for others, showing them what it means to live with grace, resilience, and purpose. And isn't that the kind of legacy worth leaving behind? Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling one of the largest empires in history, never saw himself as separate from the people he led. He understood that true strength lies in unity, in the bonds that connect us as a community. As he wrote, "What is not good for the swarm is not good for the bee." This simple yet profound metaphor reminds us that our well-being is deeply tied to the well-being of those around us. For Marcus, leadership wasn't about power or prestige. It was about fostering connection, ensuring that every member of the community thrived. Building strong communities isn't just a noble goal, it's a cornerstone of a meaningful legacy. Think about it. When we invest in the people around us, we create a network of support, resilience, and shared purpose. Marcus Aurelius believed that a thriving community was essential not only for individual happiness, but also for the stability and progress of society as a whole. He saw his role as a leader not as a ruler, but as a steward, someone responsible for nurturing the collective good. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine someone dedicating their time to volunteer at a local food bank. At first glance, it might seem like a small act, but its impact ripples outward. The person receiving a meal feels supported, the volunteers feel connected, and the community as a whole grows stronger. Or consider mentoring a young person, sharing your knowledge and experience to help them navigate challenges and reach their potential. These acts of service don't just benefit others, they enrich your own life, giving you a sense of purpose and connection. So, how can you contribute to your community in a meaningful way? Start by identifying your strengths and passions. Are you skilled at teaching, organizing, or simply listening? Think about how you can use those gifts to uplift others. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness have the most profound impact. Marcus Aurelius would remind us that every action, no matter how modest, contributes to the greater good when it's rooted in compassion and intention. Here's a practical exercise inspired by his teachings. Take a moment to reflect on your community. What challenges does it face? What opportunities for connection and growth exist? Then ask yourself, how can I play a role in addressing these needs? Maybe it's organizing a neighborhood clean-up, offering to tutor a student, or simply checking in on a neighbor. These actions, when multiplied, create a culture of care and collaboration that benefits everyone. What does your community need from you today? The answer might be simpler than you think. By investing in the people around you, you're not just building a stronger community, you're crafting a legacy of unity, compassion, and shared purpose. And in a world that often feels divided, isn't that the kind of impact we all want to create? Acknowledging death gives life meaning. It's a truth that might sound unsettling at first, but when you truly sit with it, it becomes one of the most liberating ideas you can embrace. Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled an empire yet never lost sight of life's fleeting nature, believed that mortality wasn't something to fear, it was a tool for living with greater intention. As he wrote, "Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life, now take what's left and live it properly." This striking statement isn't meant to be morbid, it's a call to action, a reminder that our time is limited, and every moment is an opportunity to live with purpose. For Marcus, death wasn't an abstract concept, it was a daily companion, a thought he carried with him to stay grounded and focused. He saw mortality not as a threat but as a motivator, a force that could strip away distractions and clarify what truly matters. In meditations, he often reflected on the impermanence of life, urging himself to live each day as if it could be his last. This wasn't about living in fear, it was about living fully with clarity and conviction. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine someone who's been putting off their dreams, waiting for the right time to pursue them. They might say, "I'll start that business someday," or "I'll travel when I retire." But Marcus Aurelius would challenge this mindset. He'd ask, what if someday never comes? What if you run out of time? By embracing the reality of mortality, we're forced to confront the urgency of now. It's not about rushing through life, it's about prioritizing what truly matters, so when the end comes, we can look back without regret. So, how can you use this principle in your own life? Start by reflecting on your priorities. What are the things that matter most to you? Your relationships, your passions, your contributions to the world. Now, ask yourself, am I giving these things the time and energy they deserve? If not, what's holding you back? Marcus Aurelius believed that when we face the reality of death, we're more likely to let go of trivial concerns and focus on what brings us meaning and joy. Here's a practical exercise inspired by his teachings. Take a moment to imagine your life from the perspective of your final days. What would you want to look back on with pride? What would you regret not doing? Use these reflections to guide your decisions today. Maybe it's reaching out to a loved one, starting that project you've been dreaming about, or simply taking a step back to appreciate the beauty of the present moment. How would you live differently if you fully embraced your mortality? It's a question that invites us to strip away the noise and focus on what's essential. When we live with the awareness that our time is finite, we don't just exist, we thrive, creating a life that's rich in purpose and free from regret. And isn't that the kind of legacy worth striving for? A life lived fully, deeply, and with intention, knowing that every moment is a gift. What wisdom will you pass on to future generations? It's a question that invites us to think beyond the here and now, to consider the lasting impact of the lessons and values we embody. Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled an empire yet spent his life wrestling with profound questions, believed that sharing wisdom was one of the greatest gifts we could offer. As he wrote, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." This vivid metaphor reminds us that life isn't always graceful or predictable, it's a constant struggle, a series of challenges that shape who we are and what we leave behind. For Marcus, wisdom wasn't just about acquiring knowledge, it was about passing it on, ensuring that future generations could learn from our experiences and grow stronger. Marcus Aurelius saw wisdom as a legacy in itself. He didn't hoard his insights or keep them hidden. He documented them in Meditations, a personal journal that has since become a timeless guide for millions. Through his writings, he shared not just his thoughts but his struggles, his doubts, and his triumphs. This act of vulnerability and generosity transformed his private reflections into a universal resource, one that continues to inspire and guide people nearly 2 millennia later. His legacy wasn't built on monuments or conquests, it was built on the wisdom he left behind. Let's bring this into the modern world. Imagine someone mentoring a young professional, sharing lessons learned from years of experience. They don't just teach skills, they offer perspective, helping the mentee navigate challenges with confidence and clarity. Or consider someone writing a memoir, documenting their journey so that others can learn from their successes and mistakes. These acts of sharing wisdom don't just benefit the recipient, they create a ripple effect, shaping lives far beyond the immediate moment. So, what lessons or values do you want to be remembered for? It's a question worth pondering, not just for the sake of legacy, but for the clarity it brings to your own life. Are you passing on kindness, resilience, or a love for learning? Are you teaching others to approach challenges with courage or to lead with empathy? The wisdom you share doesn't have to be grand or profound sometimes. The simplest lessons are the most enduring. Here's a practical exercise inspired by Marcus Aurelius. Take a moment to reflect on the lessons that have shaped you. What advice would you give to someone starting their own journey? Write it down, share it with a loved one, or even post it online. By putting your wisdom into words, you're not just preserving it, you're ensuring it can touch lives long after you're gone. Legacy isn't just about what we build or achieve, it's about the wisdom we impart. When we share our knowledge and insights, we create a bridge between the past and the future, one that allows others to walk a little further, a little wiser. And in the end, isn't that the kind of legacy we all want to leave behind? A life that doesn't just end but continues through the lessons we've shared and the lives we've touched. As we come to the end of this journey through the profound lessons of Marcus Aurelius, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned. These 22 timeless teachings aren't just philosophical musings, they're a roadmap for crafting a life of meaning, resilience, and purpose. From the importance of self-awareness and the power of gratitude to the courage to face adversity and the wisdom of living in the present, Marcus Aurelius offers us a guide to living not just for ourselves but for the world around us. At the heart of his philosophy is the idea that our legacy isn't built in grand gestures or fleeting achievements, it's shaped by the small, intentional choices we make every day. Whether it's practicing humility, embracing change, or leading with compassion, each lesson invites us to live with greater clarity and intention. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the quality of our lives and the impact we leave behind depends on the quality of our thoughts and actions. As he wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." These words challenge us to take responsibility for our inner world, knowing that it shapes not only our own happiness but also the legacy we create. But Stoicism isn't just about personal growth, it's about connection. Marcus Aurelius believed that true fulfillment comes from contributing to something greater than ourselves, whether it's through acts of kindness, building strong communities, or sharing wisdom with others. His teachings remind us that a meaningful legacy isn't about what we accumulate or achieve. It's about how we uplift and inspire those around us. So, what can you take away from these lessons? Start by reflecting on how they resonate with your own life. Which principles feel most relevant to your current challenges or aspirations? Perhaps it's cultivating resilience in the face of setbacks or finding peace by embracing impermanence. Maybe it's the call to live with greater purpose, aligning your actions with your deepest values. Whatever it is, remember that these lessons aren't meant to be mastered overnight, they're lifelong practices, tools to help you navigate the complexities of life with grace and intention. As we close, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which of Marcus Aurelius' teachings resonated most with you? How do you plan to apply them in your own life? Share your reflections in the comments below. I'd love to continue this conversation with you. And if you found value in this video, consider subscribing for more insights on Stoicism and personal growth. Together, let's continue exploring how ancient wisdom can help us build lives of meaning, resilience, and enduring impact. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the teachings of Marcus Aurelius. Remember, the legacy you leave behind begins with the choices you make today. So, what will your next step be? The answer lies within